So I get this question a lot in my comment section that $1 million isn't really enough anymore. Should that stop you from investing? Of course not, right? Inflation will always be there. So I'm going to show you the savings rate calculator. I encourage you to just download all of my financial resources for absolutely free by visiting firesuggest.com/resources. I believe in free financial education. So you should be able to download all of my resources for free. A lot of people tend to focus too much on the stock market performances. Okay, they're worried about 10%, 7%, 12%. If you're like already a millionaire, sure, you want to worry about how the market's performing. But when you're just starting to invest, what you should really focus on is your savings rate. Okay, so and this is based on your gross income and not your take-home income. The most accurate way to calculate your savings rate is using your gross income because every one of you has different tax rates and deductions. And let's say you're single and make $30 an hour. For 40 hours a week, that's $62,000 a year in annual gross income. That's not counting any overtime or anything like that. The first one I always prioritize is my employer match. Okay. Then I put 5% right here in this block. Okay. You can choose 5%, 6%, whatever you want. And if I'm doing the bare minimum 401k contribution, let's say at 5%, then that's where I put it. So I'm basically contributing $120 every paycheck to my 401k, while my employer contributes another $120. This will give you a 10% savings rate automatically, right? If you max out your HSA or health savings account with $3,850 as a single individual in 2023, then that's $148 every 2 weeks. Your savings rate would be at 6% annually just with an HSA. And if you max out your Roth IRA with $6,500 in 2023, then that's $250 every 2 weeks. And your savings rate would be 10%. So this would be a total of 27% savings rate if you can manage to do it. Keep in mind that it's really actually 22% that comes out of your gross income because 5% of that is actually from your employer. Okay. I'm going to give you another scenario because a lot of you watch my channel make over $100,000 a year, and that's awesome. Okay. And let's say you are single and make $50 an hour, and that's about $104,000 a year in gross income. I would still prioritize the 401k employer match and then prioritize HSA and Roth IRA. You should be able to max out your HSA and Roth IRA with a six-figure income. If you can max out your 401k contribution at $22,500, then I would say go for it. But since you're already saving 37% of your gross income towards your retirement, I would caution you not to have too much in your retirement if you're cash poor. If you have enough cash set aside, then I would say go for it. But I wouldn't max out the 401k until at least I have my emergency fund fully funded. Okay. And let's say, I'm going to give you another scenario. Let's say you're married and both of you and your spouse work and make the same amount of money. Okay. Now you can double your investments between you and your working spouse. Take advantage of this if you're both working, and because now you can put twice the 401k, Roth IRA, and HSA. I'm just going to assume that both spouses work for in the private sector for a 401k company. If both of you make let's say a total of $208,000 in gross income, you can each contribute up to $22,500 in the 401k. So with a total of $45,000, okay? Your HSA can even go up to $7,750, and your Roth IRA can be a total of $13,000. That is a total of 32% savings rate just in retirement and contributing $76,000 a year. And if you add $500, let me add $500 to the travel fund. That's another 6%, okay? And if you add another $200 every 2 weeks, that's going to be 3%. And let's add another $500 in the annual expenses fund. That's 6%. And let's say you have more money and you want to invest $1,000 every 2 weeks to your taxable investment account. That's another 13%, right? So you could save and invest up to 60% of your gross income, $200,000 in gross income. Could you live on $75,000? You probably can if you don't have any debt, right? My wife and I don't have any debt except for our mortgage. And because our mortgage payments are really low from buying a house, and I was really fortunate. I bought a house in 2014 and I managed to refinance it in 2020 to down to like 2.9%. We now save and invest up to 70% of our gross income. It is impossible though. Let's take out that mortgage out of the equation, okay? It is impossible to save 50%, 60%, or 70% if we had car loans, credit cards, personal loans, or something else. This is a really good tool for you to see how much you're really saving every month. And again, you can download it for free by visiting firestarchat.com/resources. Okay. And I want to show you one more thing here. This net worth calculator, I've been using this since 2014 or 2015. It is very important to diversify your net worth because you don't want to have too much in real estate, too much in your 401k, or just too much in anything, right? So, what is the right balance? And calculating your net worth is simple. It's your total assets minus your liabilities. So, if you have $100,000 in assets and $20,000 in debt, like your home student loans, your home student loans, credit cards, or any other outstanding loans, then your net worth is $80,000. When your net worth reaches $1 million, you're a millionaire. When your net worth reaches $2 million, you're a multimillionaire. And here's an example. Let's say this guy, a random guy, okay, random guy named Sai, is 30 years old and his net worth is $155,000, which exceeds the average net worth for Americans between the ages of 30 and 34. That's great, right? However, his house is worth $400,000 and he owes $300,000. His retirement account balance is $50,000. Let's say 401k is $50,000. And he only has $5,000 in his checking account. So the majority of this person's net worth is tied up in the home equity at $100,000. $50,000 is in retirement account, but he can't access it until he hits the retirement age. All he has left is $5,000 in liquidity, which probably doesn't cover more than 2 months of expenses, right? And you see how this person is poorly diversified because the real estate piece dominates the net worth. His primary home alone is 67% of his net worth, and his retirement account is about 30% of his net worth. So if you ask him what his net worth is, and he tells you $155,000, then that sounds pretty good on the surface, right? But in reality, his net worth is too much tied up in the equity of his primary home. So if something emergency happens, or if he wants to purchase more assets, $5,000 in his checking account is all he has access to for liquidity. This is the common problem many Americans have for not diversifying their net worth. You have to build your wealth outside your primary residence because if he takes out his primary residence and retirement assets from his net worth, again, he would only have $5,000 for an immediate access, right? What you really want is to have a well balanced net worth where you're not cash poor, retirement poor, or too heavy with home equity, right? Everyone's goal right now is to have $1 million in net worth. Ideally, I want to have no more than 25% of my net worth in the equity of my primary residence. So let's just say that my house is worth $400,000 on the market and I owe $300,000 on the mortgage, which means I have $100,000 in equity of my home, right? I also want to have at least 10% of my net worth in cash. So if I had $1 million in net worth, I would like to have at least $100,000 in cash. But of that $100,000 in cash, $30,000 of that could be in my emergency fund, $20,000 in travel fund or discretionary fund and annual expenses funds. And the rest of it can be used for future real estate or other asset purchases. If we have another stock market crash like in 2020 or a bear market in 2022, I had cash on the sideline ready to purchase those stocks. If I didn't have any cash, I wouldn't be able to make those purchases, right? And looking back at 2020, am I glad that I made those purchases? Absolutely. But looking back in 2022, am I glad that I bought some of those tech stocks? Absolutely, right? And I know $100,000 in cash seems a lot, and you have the potential to lose that to inflation. That's why I would put most of that in long term CDs yielding about 5% in APY or high yield savings accounts. When it comes to cash allocation, I pay more attention to the percentage instead of the asset value. And ideally, I like to have at least half of that in my that net worth in retirement and stock market investments. If I have 50% of my net worth in 401k, Roth IRA, and HSA, I'm pretty comfortable with that because it's well balanced, right? If I had another $250,000 in the stock market investments, that would be 25% of my net worth in my early retirement investments. And in September, I'm going to do a video on my net worth update, and I do this every birthday of mine, and where I am, and tell you guys where I am with my financial independence journey. As my assets increase, I like to continue to maintain that 25 to 30% of my net worth in real estate, 40 to 45% of my net worth in retirement accounts, 20 to 25% in my early retirement stock market investments, and 10 to 15% of my net worth in cash. Not keeping enough cash in your assets is actually dangerous because if something happens to you, you're going to end up borrowing from your retirement accounts, investment assets, or borrow from the bank. There's no reason for anyone to borrow from a bank like a HELOC or something to purchase more assets. And your net worth is not going to increase if you keep adding debt or liabilities. Be patient, save money, and invest your money. And if you're not sure what you're doing, schedule a complimentary coaching session and by visiting firesuccess.com/coaching, or schedule a paid coaching session by visiting firesuccess.com/pricing. And this has been another beast of a video, and I hope you got a lot out of it. And I will see you in the next public live stream.